You know, I believe what I recall the most notable thing about Clint Eastwood is that roughly a year most people eventually recall Robert Urich as the rough, affable, and robust man from Spencer for Hire in Vegas, for example. On screen, he always radiated strength, authority, and a willingness to face enemies. However, off-screen, it was a completely different story in life. Behind Robert was engaged in combat with the cameras that much more dramatic than any screenplay could hurl at him. He wasn't fighting, though that be why itself. Actress Heather Menzies, his wife, remained by his side the entire time. And this is where the narrative takes a different turn. Tragic turn. Only a few years later on, life also gave her a surprise. Manner. What became to the relationship then? Come along with us today as we reclaim the let's put a lid on this one. From Toronto, Ohio to the forefront. Few actors are able to boast that you have starred in 15 different shows on television, but Robert Urich was an ordinary actor. With that silky such as a smooth voice, a sharp jaw, and that reassuring appeal of every man, he kindled for 30 years up the screen. However, millions, witnessed a famous figure who consistently emerged victorious. Behind the scenes showed a man battling issues that warranty Hollywood could write a script, too. Robert, the narrative of Urich begins in the sleepy town not from Canada, but from Toronto, Ohio. Born to John Paul and Monica Urich, Cecilia Roberts' ancestry was Slovak and Rousen had a Byzantine Catholic upbringing. He was your quintessential American child, an outstanding sportsman, a born leader, and someone who consistently appeared to be destined for more. He was awarded a scholarship to play football visit the fun-filled Florida State University. In actuality, he encountered fellow Burt Reynolds, future star. Robert performed at the football team's backup center, but on the field was not where his true magic existed. He obtained a degree in television and radio communications before moving forward further with a broadcast master's degree Michigan's Management and Research State University. He had ambition. He was astute. He was planning. He even took vocal instruction at the University of Chicago and held a sales position at WGN-TV, earning a pitiful $150 per week. However, the kicker, he was let go. Why? They discovered he was working two jobs. Yes, Robert was working side jobs in an attempt to break into performing, which caused a rift with his bosses. Additionally, he provided the tried the weatherman gig, but it didn't work out. He was aware of the green screen well before wasn't where he ended up. In the early 1970s, Robert eventually appeared on TV. And boy, did he when he did glow. For every position, from SWAT to when Spencer hired Vegas, he turned into a commonplace in living rooms across America. He was inostentatious or controversial. He was strong, trustworthy, and incredibly likable. He was one of TV's uncommon combos most reliable faces. He wasn't merely he was working. 15 distinct series, countless guest appearances. He succeeded. Appears simple. However, success in the public eye does not imply that there is calm behind it, hence at large in Hollywood. Following a performance in The Rain, a theater play in Chicago maker with Burt, an old college friend Robert Urich, Reynolds, took a risk that would permanently alter his life. Reynolds is already preparing to become a powerful figure in Hollywood. Dragged him. You got it, kid, he remarked, putting it aside go to Los Angeles and try your hand at acting. Real shot. All Urich had to do was listen. He gathered his belongings and headed for it. Shortly after arriving in Los Urich landed his first TV job in Angeles, a 1972 guest appearance on the FBI. It wasn't significant, yet it was sufficient in order to gain access. Only a year he eventually secured a leading part in the television modification of Ted and Bob and Carol and Alice. Big break, huh? Not precisely. The program's ratings plummeted, and it was terminated after just 6 episodes. However, Urich remained unfazed. He was only beginning. In the same year, he produced his first motion picture, and it wasn't in any anonymous indie. He co-starred with Clint, Magnum Force's Eastwood, a rough, filthy, hairy follow-up. Urich performed a motorcycle cop with a tendency towards vigilantism. It was strong, it was black, and it shown that he could handle drama on the big screen. As good as television. Then, in 1975, and an additional turn of events involving Burt Reynolds. Reynolds, Continuing to watch convinced TV powerhouse for his friend Aaron Spelling will try to get Urich Tozeking apart in his new series with lots of action. Spelling and SWO concurred, and when Urich read for Spelling was enthralled with the part. He threw him as the young officer Jim Streetcom police officer in the elite unit. The program was substituted in the middle of the season, however the number of watchers surged. SWAT have everything, all of the excitement, the action, and overnight, Urich rose to fame on television. However, the show rose as swiftly as it fell. It was criticized for being too aggressive, and SWAT was removed from there. But Urich continued to move. In 1977, he was cast in a humorous part in the hit playing Peter the Tennis in the sitcom Soap Participant. The segment was short, but unforgettable. He was cast in the same year in the Bewitched spin-off Tabitha, portrayed Paul Thurston, a dashing, self-centered talk show presenter. The program initially had a high rating, however it fizzled out because of bad scheduling. Only 13 episodes later, Tabitha was canceled, and the part that made Robert Urich famous was in 1978. Then he was cast in the part that really made him a $1 is a household name. Once more assisting Aaron Spelling, Urich was chosen to play Dan Tana, an elegant private investigating crimes in the neon. The streets of Las Vegas are saturated. To completely represent Urich, the tough man detective, he showed out. Not just showed up. He packed on 40 pounds of solid, bulked-out muscle, gaining between 180 and 220 pounds of lean on-screen power. The outcome? $1 gained popularity almost immediately. Perhaps it was the background of Vegas. Perhaps it was the large stakes and gaudy automobiles. Take action. But that was probably Urich. He held the position, and fans were unable to sufficient. He received 2 Golden nominations for the Globes and confirmed his position as a real TV star. However, even sometimes stars burn out. By the third time of year, $1 was beginning to decline in the ratings. Not much with the network's backing. ABC removed the plug in June of 1981. Suddenly, the lights in Vegas went out. However, Robert he was far from done. Urich. Following Robert, Urich didn't slow down, $1 down. He simply changed direction. He made Akin 10 with MGM and Focus on movie. His first motion picture produced by the studio Endangered Species was a science fiction film. Alan Rudolph is the director of this thriller. The movie didn't do very well at the box office, however it signaling a new phase in the Urich film that star aspirations. The TV continued to call that return the favor. He went back to the tiny Gavilan, where he performed oceanographer and former CIA agent. That sounds awesome, doesn't it? Regretfully, the audience remained unimpressed. The performance was terminated after only 7 episodes, although Urich did not think about it. In 1984, he appeared in 2 movies, The Unconventional Space West comedy, and The Ice Pirates, the terrifying invitation to hell from Kravenflick that tended towards the strange. Both were audacious decisions, yet neither turned into enormous hits. Next, Turk 182 arrived. 1985 is a heartfelt drama, but once more note of financial success. In the same year but on TV, he struck gold once more. Urich caught what would turn out to be one of his most iconic roles, Hire Spencer. As the streetwise, strong, and private eye with a heart, he held listeners' attention for 3 strong seasons. Even after the show concluded, Urich had not finished the personality. He played the part again in throughout a number of TV films: The Nines, Ritual, Pale Princes and Kings, A Savage Place, and The Judas Goat. And he was occupied with being everyone's favorite television detective. He became the host of Ophi's Resume. In 1988, he started to host Explorer on National Geographic, where he revealed a side of curiosity that was more cerebral. He received a Cable Ace Award for that gig. Next, arrived one of the most important renowned endeavors of his career, 1989's Lonesome Dove. Jake was played by Urich. Former Texas Ranger Spoon has a sod course. The miniseries was well received. Several reviewers gave Urich's performance high marks for its emotional impact and depth. In the 9S, his career continued to progress, although not everything became trapped. He participated in a series of brief television programs and films. From 1999's American Dreamer until Crossroads and 83 Hours until Dawn in 1992, Urich continued to look for another breakthrough series. In 1993, he collaborated with It Had to Be You with Faye Dunaway, a sitcom that quickly failed. 4 episodes, and it was finished. In 1995, he narrated a Disney documentary that is uncommon, Encounters with Aliens from New Tomorrowland. After one airing, it disappeared, turning into a Disney enthusiasts consider it to be almost mythical. The lawsuit. The Lazarus Man then entered a Western drama from 1996 that provided Urich one of his best parts of his late career. Because viewers enjoyed it so much, it was renewed for a second season. However, then came terrible news. Urich had been found to have synovial sarcoma, an uncommon kind of cancer. Rather than endorsing him, the production company of the show, Castle Rock Entertainment, suddenly canceled the show. Later, Urich called Take Them Out. No one asked if I could not continue to work. They simply off the power. In 2000, he filed a breach of contract lawsuit. Additionally, even though the litigation was resolved, the message was apparent in private. He wasn't going to back down. While he fought cancer, Urich continued to work. In 1997, he hosted the medical website Vital Signs. Fronted the documentary series Anbo Works is a PBS program. In 1998, he was proclaimed clear of cancer and immediately returning to acting, playing the lead role of Captain Jim Kennedy III in the Next Love Boat Make a Wave. On UPN, it lasted for 2 seasons. Urich even made his Broadway debut as the slick-talking lawyer in Chicago Flynn, Billy. He took the performance on tour in 1999 and 2000, demonstrating his continued charisma and theatrical presence to spare. And he became a member of Emerald's cast in 2001, a sitcom centered on a famous chef Lagassa Emerald. The show didn't work at either audiences or critics, but Urich's performance was among the few excellent locations. His final series would be this one. The last performance took place during Night of the Wolf, a television-produced film that was shown on the evening before he went to Animal Planet past. The cancer diagnosis of Robert Urich. August 1996. Robert Urich disclosed to the general public that he was diagnosed synovial sarcoma, is an uncommon type of malignancy that targets the surrounding soft tissues of the body. Although it was a powerful punch, Urich didn't back down. Rather, he confronted the diagnosis head-on with perseverance, dignity, and unwavering optimism. While he received harsh therapies, he continued twerking. He fought for more than merely himself. He started speaking up for others. Urich gave cancer all of his energies. Consciousness, voicing concerns regarding the significance of early detection and investigation. His attempts didn't go overlooked. He was bestowed with numerous accolades, including a John Wayne Award, the Gilda Radner, and the Cancer Institute Courage Award, which acknowledges both his advocacy and strength. In addition to he started the URI with his wife, Heather Menzies, University of Michigan Fund Comprehensive Cancer Center, directing resources and assistance for cancer investigation. Not only did he donate his name, he also donated from his wallet. Following playing on the show Who Wants to Be a Urich, a millionaire, gave his $125,000 in profits sent straight to the money. By 1998, the arduous fight appeared to have been successful. Urich was proclaimed clear of cancer and in a state of triumph was dubbed the national representative of the American Cancer Association Society. He made use of the platform to encourage, instruct, and demonstrate that the discovery of cancer wasn't the end of the journey, but the illness was always present. Behind. November 2001, Urich revealed in an interview that medical professionals discovered fresh bumps. Nevertheless, he had optimism. The new drug was effective, and once more, he felt hopeful. Unfortunately, the battle reached its climax in April 2002. A week before his passing, Urich was taken to Los Robos Medical Center and Healthcare Facility in Thousand Oaks, California with respiratory issues. He died on April 16, 2002, at 55 years old. Heather, his wife, and he was accompanied by their 3 children. 3 days later, there was a funeral mass at St. Charles Borromeo on April 19 at North Hollywood Church. His physique was his ashes were cremated and buried at the family's Prince Holiday House, Canada's Edward County, Ontario. There is currently a memorial in Westlake. Near there, the Church of Christ Cemetery House. A quiet remembrance of a man who gave it everything he had, both on and off screen. The marriage of Robert Urich. Prior to his death, Robert had 2 marriages. His Barbara, an actress, was the subject of the first marriage, Rucker, in 1968. The partnership didn't last, and in 1974 they got divorced. 1 year in 1975, he wed an actress. Heather has menstruation. They remained together until 2002, when he passed away, and adopted 3 kids in the process. It was a strong union based on common principles, empathy, and a shared affection for family and taking action. Brotherston, Heather Margaret Menzies, was born in December in Toronto, March 3, 1949, to parents from Scotland who had moved to Canada following World War II. Her father struggled as an artist, and when Heather turned 14, she had resided in London, Miami, Vancouver, and California's South. She had a younger Sheila, the sister, and an older Neil, a brother who died in 2019. She completed her education at John Burroughs High Burbank School in 1967 and later attended Falcon Studios to study acting. Arts University. Her initial appearance on screen appeared on the television show in 1964, The Daughter of a Farmer. Just 14 years old aged, she received her first major role as in The Sound of Music, Louisa Von Trapp. Despite her lack of formal acting experience, among the talented cast, she was competitive, singing The Lonely and So Long Farewell. Herd of Goats. During the movie's famous In the Boating scenario, Heather was the one who saved Kim Karth Gretel, a young woman who had unable to swim after falling into the water. Menzies worked for a long time in a variety of movies and television. She made an appearance in well-known shows like Dragnet, Bonanza, Jones and Alias Smith, Room 222, Marcus T.J. Hooker, Welby, Maryland, and even Vega Dollar with her spouse. She featured in the cult sci-fi film as Jessica Six at Logan's Run television series and appeared in movies such as How Sweet It Is, Hawaii, Endangered Species, and Piranha. She appeared in a Playboy photo shoot in 1973. Tender Trap, a picture that pays homage to her origins in Sound of Music. She and Urich met while working on a commercial in 1974 where they acted as though they were married. Soon after, life began to mimic art, and they become a married couple with 3 children. Child adoption and creating a life of commitment and purpose. Following Urich's death in 2002 due to cancer, Heather carried on with his mission, creating to raise funds, the Robert Urich Foundation for the Study of Cancer, and to assist patients as well as their families. She turned into a relentless supporter of the cause, putting her time and effort into it because the remainder of her life. Additionally, she had survived years of ovarian cancer, which just strengthened her determination. In November 2017, Heather received a diagnosis, having brain cancer that is terminal. Only a few weeks later, on December 24, 2017, she died at 68 years old, surrounded by her relatives. Ryan Urich, her son, stated she was a ballerina and an actor, cherished experiencing life to the fullest. She didn't feel any discomfort. But almost 4 weeks following her terminal illness diagnosis, she had enough of brain cancer and took at 7:22. She took her final breath. PM. Robert and Heather worked together to contribute to the Eccles Performing Arts Park City High School's Arts Center in Utah. Following his passing, the Robert Urich Scholarship was established in his recollection. Additionally, the pair co-founded the Urich Fund for Robert and Heather Research on Sonoma at the University of Michigan. Their support paved the way for the method for others to follow in the semiganizing journey. In the place where he was born, a highway intersection in Toronto, Ohio, was the Robert Urich Interchange was named in his honor. For his television work, he received a Hollywood Walk Star, a T-7083, Hollywood Boulevard, the Hall of Fame. For years, he was the sole one with A on the stroll, Your Last Name Begins With You, until Usher came to him. Both are gone, yet not forgotten. Through their offspring, their basis, as well as the lifestyles they moved, Robert Urich's legacy and the legacy of Heather Menzies endures. The work of Robert Urich Kids. Menzies, Robert, and Heather parenting was not an easy journey for Urich. Following several miscarriages, they adopted a child. Their initial 2, Ryan and Emily, the children, were born in 1978 and 1980. After over 20 years, they adopted a 3rd kid in 1998. Urich, Allison Grady. Robert was a parent who was involved and emotionally present, kind, encouraging, and genuinely involved in the lives of his children. That compassion influenced their family, particularly in the face of hardship. When Robert's cancer came back around the time Ryan was high school, graduation was a challenging blow for the whole family. However, Ryan, Allison, and Emily supported their father during his last few months. Just as for more than 15 years, Heather had been there for him earlier when he started his battle. Ryan was the only one of the three kids, someone who first expressed interest in pursuing acting after his parents. He appeared in several productions, such as The Killer Inside and The Night Walk. However, he eventually turned to leave the entire entertainment sector, motivated by something more profound. Ryan Urich is currently a specialist in infectious diseases with New York's Lovelace Medical Group, Mexico. His path to become a doctor was directly motivated by his father's struggle with cancer. During interviews, Ryan has stated that the viewing experience his father is in pain and feels powerless that was transformative. He was unable to save his dad, but having earned a degree in medicine, understood that he could save someone else's. He has been guided by that feeling of purpose ever since. Allison and Emily, however, have chosen to live in a more tranquil lives away from the spotlight. However, as a relatives, they have retained their parents' legacy alive, not only via means of the Robert Urich Foundation or the grants under their names, although in the graceful manner in which they conduct themselves, conviction as well as empathy. What did Ryan say about his dad? Among all the three kids, Ryan is the one who openly he talks most about his father. As a Robert, his father frequently opted for connection excessive correction. When Ryan mentioned his father, he remembered moments when he encountered difficulties at school. Rather than Robert got on the floor and reprimanded him, softly opened his eyes to his son, and I leveled the door to dialogue. He desired to comprehend, not just discipline. That his parenting was characterized by a soft approach. He brought his girls along with him to focus, acknowledging even the tiny victories with sincere pride, that in his last days, frail from disease, he still had the stamina to play. Days prior, his youngest, Allison, her 4th birthday. His conflict with cancer was a protracted, exhausting, and during the course of 6 unrelenting years and 3 distinct diagnoses. The initial round is over. Despite being terrified, he faced it with resilience. He had surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and losing his hair, but not his resolve. He go back to work as quickly as possible, on assignment hosting for National Geographic, a program that led to distant regions of the globe, even while battling for his life. When Ryan's cancer resurfaced throughout the previous year, by high school, the illness had spread. Ferocious. Robert's physique had turned into sensitive to the slightest motion. While traveling to appointments for chemotherapy, Ryan took great caution when driving attempting to avoid all obstacles to protect his father from suffering. Robert died in 2002, the same year that Ryan was pursuing a college degree in biology. The witnessing his father's suffering and failing to assist turned into a pivotal moment. Ryan used his grief as a channel into direction, ultimately turning into a physician and expert in infectious disease in New Mexico. Emily, his sister, also discovered her vocation in medicine and currently serves as a nurse at the emergency department. Their career choices weren't made at random. They were formed by seeing both the cruelty of cancer and the empathy they parents were there through it all. Robert S. Heather Menzies Urich's wife has previously lived with ovarian cancer after she assisted create the Robert Urich Foundation in order to encourage cancer sufferers and research. Following Robert's passing, she committed a lot of the cause with her life. In 2017, she was also given a terminal brain diagnosis. Cancer. She died within 4 weeks. Later, with her kids by her side. The Urich children now bear that carrying on their heritage, not only in their professions, but with their continued efforts with the Urich Foundation. Their parents may no longer exist, but the principles they infused, empathy, fortitude, and service, endures in each person's life. Kids make contact. The numerous disputes off Burt Reynolds. Despite the fact that Robert Urich was highly regarded for his modesty, generosity, and steadfast commitment to charity and family, his close Burt Reynolds, a friend, lived a much longer tumultuous and contentious existence, particularly with regard to his romantic connections. This was nowhere more obvious than in his well-known union with Lonnie Anderson, an actress, union that started with glitz and glamour in Hollywood, but resulted in a public display and personal demise. Anderson and Reynolds in the 1980s, they were a tabloid fantasy. Hugh was Smokey's mustachioed star, and one of the largest boxes and the bandit office magnates of his day. She was the stunning blonde from WKRP in Cincinnati. Admired for her humorous timeliness and striking appearances, they were the epitome of Hollywood perfection. Couple, on the surface at least. Their officially, romance started in the early 1980s, characterized by a lot of breakups and reconciliations. When they eventually 1988 saw the couple be married in a ceremony as slavish as the general public had come to expect nothing less from two stars of their class. However, behind the scenes of their home, their union was starting to decay. The relationship ended abruptly, characterized by disagreements, conflicting egos, and accusations of adultery. At first, the couple kept their problems to themselves. Private, with all of it spilling into the public in 1993 when Reynolds submitted a request for separation. What came next was among the most costly and messy breakup in history of Hollywood. The separation became into headline material that contains harmful charges from both parties. Reynolds demonstrated Anderson's carelessness with money, asserting that she helped him develop financial difficulties. Anderson retorted, including charges of emotional and physical mistreatment. The general public loved it, and the press's fixation on the aftermath only made the emotional harm. During that period, Reynolds was already battling the deterioration of his career as an actor and a developing mountain of debt. The court case against Anderson drove him even further into debt, ultimately prompting him to submit insolvency. The consequences weren't merely painful. For him specifically, it damaged his reputation and put a stop to his once prosperous profession. Anderson left the union worth an estimated $10 million settlement, an amount encompassing alimony, valuable goods, and prime real estate. Reynolds saw it as more than simply a setback to his financial institution. It's signaling the beginning of a downward trajectory that would ultimately resulted in his Chapter 11 filing, bankruptcy, in 1996. Then, his debt had skyrocketed to $10 million to almost $20 million in today's currency. Though it's among Hollywood's most just 10 years ago, bankable stars Reynolds was frantically trying to continue to float. He acknowledged in public that obtaining funds from friends merely to maintain your alimony payments. His extravagant lifestyle and waning career possibilities and legal complications made matters worse. Then there was more difficulty. Shortly after the dust had resolved his divorce, Reynolds got caught up in another legal conflict. This time, he's with his longtime Pamela Seals, her girlfriend. The partnership, which lasted almost a decade, came to a sour standstill that broke out into a lawsuit. Reynolds said Seals was attempting to extort millions from him using threats of accusing him of mistreating him if he didn't consent to a substantial financial agreement. The lawsuit claims that half of Reynolds, Florida, was required by Seals' residence, monetary assistance for herself and her mother, as well as extra pay. Reynolds made a $1 million offer to payout, but Seals turned it down. His demands were rejected by the legal team as essentially blackmail, stressing that because the pair had never been wed, she had no legal rights according to Florida law. The lawsuit aimed to stop Seals from filing a lawsuit. The pair had resided in California momentarily. Reynolds, who was then 68, released a tense statement requesting the circumstance was regrettable, but it made it evident that he would not give in to pressure or untrue accusations. Bob, his attorney Montgomery, observed that the performer possessed able to bounce back from his previous financial difficulties, but the experience with Seals represented yet another phase in Reynolds' lengthy and intricate personal life. The two eventually discovered a share the ground. Reynolds' on-screen his legacy and charisma remained indisputable, reinforced by memorable parts in Deliverance, Boogie, Smokey, and the Bandit off-screen nights, and Burt Reynolds' life was full of expensive partnerships, prominent court cases, and years of unstable finances. In contrast to his pal Urich, Robert, who was renowned for his Reynolds' stable, grounded personal life, the last years described the tale of a Hollywood star whose own mistakes frequently threatened to eclipse his legendary career. As Robert Urich fought cancer in silence with honor and left a heritage of honesty and purpose, personal life of Burt Reynolds frequently unfolded as a warning story that he continued to be a cherished movie star. Viewed in contrast to Urich, his name was as frequently connected to controversy as it was with his accomplishments. Ultimately, Reynolds and Anderson's tale turned into a stark as opposed to the type of stable. Urich has created a life based on morals. What did you consider Bert and Robert Urich, Reynolds' companionship? Put down your comments with your ideas. If you had fun, remember to like, share, and comment on this video. Join our channel by subscribing. Remember to view the upcoming video on your screen. You'll like it.